People called me last night, said they were going to join in on their way in or going to join in online. With that, first up, we do have at least 2 more people online, correct? Excellent, we have 3. We'll do bill introduction. Is there any bill request? See none. First up we have is KDOT 101. I believe Secretary Reed's leading us off today. Thank you.
I've got a lot of information to cover. Oh, there you go. Thank you. A lot of information to cover today. I'm going to try to go as quickly as possible. But first of all, I'd just like to thank everybody for allowing us to come and tell a little bit about what's been going on at KDOT and give an update on the IKE transportation program. You know, our agency oversees an expansive scope of transportation assets, projects, and programs, really impacting all citizens across the entire state. And we're proud that we have such a direct connection to the citizens and communities that we serve, and that we help keep Kansas moving. We respect the tax dollars that we are charged with spending, and we make prudent decisions, and we honor our commitments. It is my honor here today to be here on behalf of all of the employees at the Kansas Department of Transportation. KDOT's mission is to provide a safe, reliable, and innovative statewide transportation system that works for all Kansans today and in the future. As the KDOT Secretary, I keep the agency's mission front of mind and regularly make sure that the work we are doing contributes to that mission. I'm proud to say that since the IKE program was passed in the spring of 2020, KDOT has been working hard towards its mission and delivering for Kansans. Often during these presentations, I focus on the projects and the programs that we deliver, and I will certainly highlight those today. But to begin with, I wanted to be sure to highlight our people and how proud of them I am. The reason we are successful is the men and women who wake up every day and come to work at KDOT. We have nearly 2,200 employees who live and work all across the state. At this time, I would like to take a moment to thank the KDOT staff who were able to quickly get roads back open after the statewide snowstorm last week. I've heard several stories of exemplary public service after the storm, including a crew that cleared a path from Logan County to Hayes Hospital to make sure that an emergency room participant could get to the hospital as quickly as possible. These same employees who worked the storm have been clearing the roads to keep them open during these last 3 days of sub-zero temperatures. For Kansas to be successful, our communities must be successful. As part of the IKE program, KDOT has initiated many community-focused programs that can help provide practical solutions to complex local problems. In 2023, KDOT awarded more than $127 million to fund local projects that improve airports, bridges, rail, roadways, and broadband access. I'll talk a little bit more about those programs here in a minute. We understand that navigating all of our local programs can be challenging. So last year, we took the step of providing a one-stop shop for our communities to access KDOT local programs, what we call our KDOT Local Opportunities Guide. And we have some here for anybody who wants them today. These are something that we want to distribute widely so that our communities and people who participate in government know about these programs. The guide provides key information about our programs, including the purpose and goals of the program contact, match requirements, and the timing that we accept applications. This information will be an invaluable tool for those that are applying for KDOT local grants. As part of the IKE legislation, KDOT is instructed to go out across the state and collect input from citizens every 2 years in a process we call local consult. This level of statewide public involvement is unique in the country. And one of my big takeaways from the 2023 local consult is how much our citizens appreciate when we come and listen to them. It makes a difference. I'd like to thank the members of the committee, and several of you were able to attend local consult meetings. It's important, obviously, for us to hear what our citizens are saying, but it's also important for you to hear what they're saying and how important transportation is to their daily lives. Last fall, over 1,400 Kansans took time out of their days to come and tell us what they need, what we are doing well, and what we can do better. We sought input on prioritizing over 134 modernization and expansion projects valued at $8.9 billion. The local consult process starts with a list of potential projects, some recommended by communities, others by KDOT. Projects are evaluated based on crash history, current and projected congestion, economic impact, engineering need, and other factors. We then take into consideration regional priorities before we select projects to be added to our development pipeline. One thing that continues to come up in these meetings is KDOT's scoring process for projects. At my direction, during the summer of 2024, KDOT will engage key partners and stakeholders in a project scoring task force with the goal of having information for broader discussion at our 2025 local consult. I am committed to this being a collaborative process which will help prioritize projects for Ike and beyond. At local consult last fall, we talked a lot about highway improvements. But for the first time ever, we had breakout rooms for non-highway modes of transportation. This is important because, as this slide reminds us, not everyone has the ability or desire to drive cars. According to data from the Kansas Department of Revenue, of Kansans aged 15 to 64, 17% of Kansans do not have a driver's license. That's nearly 320,000 Kansans, or roughly 80% of the population of Wichita. And similar to a national trend, among Kansans 20 to 24, nearly 47,000 don't have a license. That's nearly the population of the city of Salina. Although I was referencing Salina and Wichita, these Kansans live all across our state, in urban areas and rural areas. In order to deliver a transportation system that serves all Kansans, it is essential to prioritize investments in our non-highway modes of transportation. For example, transit. Ike, along with new federal programs, has allowed us to invest more in our transit infrastructure across the state, which helps citizens make those vital connections to employment, education, medical facilities, grocery, and shopping. This is not just buses in our big cities, but it is also rural services and specialty transit services, and demand is growing. In 2023, KDOT awarded $13 million through multiple funding opportunities to our transit providers. Those funds help transport an estimated 6.6 million Kansans in our transit services. Similarly, we have been able to leverage Ike to bring in more federal dollars to invest in the state system of bike and pedestrian facilities. In 2023, KDOT updated the state's active transportation plan to provide design and implementation guidance to build infrastructure for people who walk, cycle, use mobility assistant devices, scoot, and more. In addition to the plan, several toolkits and resources that complement the plan and advance the needs of active transportation in local communities are now available. Since Ike was initiated, we have invested $28 million in these facilities all across the state. This new plan makes sure that we are investing those dollars in high priority areas. We also know that talking to our community leaders that a strong transportation system is a prerequisite for economic success. Particularly, investments needed to consider rail, bridges, aviation, and be forward-looking as new technologies emerge. KDOT is committed to helping address local needs through these programs and partnering with locals to advance opportunities. So some examples, obviously big news recently through our passenger rail service. After many years of hard work and grassroots effort, KDOT, in coordination with the Oklahoma DOT and Texas DOT, was awarded a $500,000 federal corridor ID grant for the Heartland Flyer passenger rail service. This is an important first step in extending the Heartland Flyer from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma to Newton, Kansas, where it would then connect with the Southwest Chief, a national route on Amtrak's passenger rail network. The Heartland Flyer currently provides daily service between Fort Worth and Oklahoma City. This $500,000 grant will fund development work to plan and design this route. After the work is complete, at the end of 2025, we'll have a better idea of how much it will cost and what federal opportunities will be available to make this service operational. We will also have more information at that time on how much it will be estimated to cost to operate the service. Implementation would follow development, with operation estimated to occur in 2029. Short-line railroads provide critical links for our businesses and agricultures to connect to the system of mainline railroads and world markets. We are partnering with our short-line providers to support rail enhancements to expand carload capabilities, reduce truck traffic, increase operating speeds, and improve operating efficiencies. These projects strengthen Kansas's agricultural supply chain, connecting our farmers and ranchers to regional, national, and international markets. In 2023, KDOT invested $11 million in 9 projects across the state, making key improvements to rail facilities as well as shipping and supply facilities. In addition, KDOT has leveraged state investment in short-line rail to pursue and win federal grants. In October, 2 short-line railroad companies in Kansas were awarded a combined $47 million as part of the federal bipartisan infrastructure law. Grants for the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements, or CRISI, projects support track improvement, bridge rehabilitation, and reduce emissions. Aviation is also one of those critical parts of our economy. It is estimated that Kansas airports provide over $9 billion in economic output annually for Kansas and its communities. In order to meet the needs of Kansas residents, businesses, educational institutions, emergency management, and the traveling public, sustained aviation investments are critical. Currently, the IKE program requires a minimum $5 million annual investment in aviation through the Kansas Airport Improvement Program. In 2023 and 2024, with an increasing backlog of requests to the KAIP, we are able to commit over $10 million each year. However, based on conversations with industry, it is apparent that our airports continue to fall behind in critical preservation activities. Therefore, last year at my direction, KDOT Aviation, in conjunction with the Kansas Airport Association, conducted a statewide airport facilities inventory and needs assessment to determine airport infrastructure needs in the state and the funding levels to achieve the KAIP program objectives. Based on the analysis and report from the Joint Task Force, it is apparent that current funding is not adequate to address the short-term and long-term needs of Kansas airports. Without increasing funding, pavement conditions will continue to deteriorate, and the opportunity to expand air ambulance services will not be realized. We and our aviation partners look forward to working with the legislature to provide additional airport funding to continue to support this critical part of our transportation system. Similarly, bridges have become an emerging need, especially in the rural parts of our state. Although the county roads these bridges are on often carry less traffic than state highways, they are critical to getting crops out of the field and to the local elevators. In Kansas, we have more bridges per capita than any other state, with the majority, nearly 80% of them, being owned by our locals, especially our counties. Over 12,000 of Kansas bridges are more than 50 years old. Because of continued support for the IKE program and its inherent flexibility, we have been able to continue to work on this backlog of aging bridges. In 2023, we committed $43 million in state funds to help 35 local bridge projects and have invested nearly $100 million in local bridges since the IKE program began through 2 local bridge programs, the Off-System Bridge Program and the Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Program. Additionally, we continue to invest in our state system of bridges. $130 million in bridge repair and replacement projects for fiscal year 23 to try to keep the number of bridges in poor condition low. These investments enable safe and efficient movement of people and products through our economy. As part of the new bipartisan infrastructure law, Congress approved what they are calling the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure, or NEVI, program. We project Kansas will benefit from an estimated $40 million investment in charging infrastructure over the next 5 years. Beyond the almost $40 million in federal funds, the law authorized an additional $2.5 billion in discretionary grant programs. To access that money, states were required to develop a plan of how to spend NEVI funds to improve charging infrastructure. KDOT was one of the first states to have its NEVI plan approved by the FHWA. As part of the development process, KDOT hosted statewide town hall for Kansans to learn more about EV charging and share their priorities. Over 1,000 Kansans joined the town hall to give us feedback. And earlier this month, KDOT announced the first awards totaling more than $4.6 million to build our state's designated alternative fuel corridors. These projects will be complete by summer of 2025. EVs still represent a small percentage of the overall number of vehicles registered in Kansas. In 2021, EVs were 0.13% of all passenger vehicles in the state. EV adoption in a large state such as Kansas and building out the charging infrastructure will take time. Increasing EV use is coming, and we are preparing for it. I'm going to talk about a couple other local programs that are extremely popular. The first one is our cost share program. It is one of our most flexible programs, and like I said, it's very popular among the communities that apply for it because it allows them to apply for assistance with a wide range of highways, local road, bridge, rail, airport, bicycle, pedestrian, and public transit projects. Basically, anything that we do could be covered under the cost share program, as long as the communities can provide at least a 15% local cash match. KDOT funds are used exclusively to match construction costs for these projects. In the past 4 years, we have allocated $140 million in funding that has leveraged a substantial amount of local funding in projects all across the state. In 2023, we awarded $23 million for 30 projects across the state. Cost share continues to be well received. We typically receive 5 times as many applications as we have funding to allocate. What is particularly impressive about the cost share program is its reach across the state. This map indicates a relatively uniform spread of projects all across our state. I want to highlight a couple of examples of projects that are now completed. First, the South Woodlawn Hike and Bike Trail in the city of Derby constructed an 8-foot wide hike and bike trail that connects the southern neighborhoods to the already extensive network of trails in town. This path also provides a multi-use link from the Swaney Elementary School and amenities such as the Derby Rec Center to neighborhoods south of Chet Smith. Second, in the city of Peabody, improvements have been made to the streets, curb, and gutter in front of both the elementary and middle high schools. The new streets improvements prevent large puddles of water that students and families had to walk through and dangerous icy conditions during winter weather. The city and school district tried for 5 years to separately find a solution, but then they worked together to apply for a cost share project. Both of those improvements are currently in place. They are both relatively small projects in the grand scheme of things, but obviously very impactful to both of those communities. Another example of KDOT programs that are designed to support growth of our community is the Economic Development Program. This program helps fund transportation improvements that will recruit new businesses and encourage growth of existing businesses. The Economic Development Program is a flexible funding opportunity, allowing communities to apply for assistance for any transportation improvement that can be shown to support job growth and capital investment in the state. All transportation modes are eligible, including roadway, rail, airport, and public transit, along with a preferred 25% minimum local match. KDOT has been able to fund projects that support local communities and businesses, and our investments are making a difference. It is estimated that the $87 million investment in this program over the last 3 years has helped bring in more than 10,000 jobs for Kansans and has leveraged $2.3 billion in private capital investment in our state. Access to high-speed internet is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. Citizens, businesses, and communities without access to high-speed internet connections are in danger of being unable to access economic, education, and work opportunities. Through our Preservation Plus program, KDOT continues to add to preservation projects the scope of improving broadband expansion across the state. KDOT is contributing through investment and partnerships with the Office of Broadband Development to bring high-speed internet access to 27,000 Kansas homes and cover 682 miles of Kansas roads. This was awarded a grant through the NTIA earlier this year. We were able to leverage funding through our transportation program to be able to go after that grant and really expand what we call the middle mile service throughout the state of Kansas. Another project that won a federal grant is the US 83 out in southwest Kansas. US 83 is a critical rural freight corridor for western Kansas, serving a variety of industries including agriculture, energy, and livestock. Expanding transportation opportunities along the US 83 corridor will improve economic productivity as well as the safe and efficient movement of agricultural products and other freight benefiting everyone who travels on the corridor. A $6.7 million Advanced Transportation and Congestion Management Technologies Deployment Grant from FHWA is leveraging a critical transportation investment to make one of the busiest two-lane freight corridors smarter and to bring broadband infrastructure and access to more Kansans. At KDOT, we have embraced a culture of innovation. We look for creative problem solving and desire to use technology when appropriate to extend our reach and better serve citizens, and recognize continuous improvement as an opportunity to help achieve our mission. Improvements to CanDrive allow travelers to find up-to-the-minute road condition information now on their smartphones. The Kansas Local Infrastructure Planning Tool helps counties in analyzing their transportation infrastructure needs and compare project funding resources against future costs to maintain that infrastructure. Using this tool, county governments can make informed decisions when planning for their future needs. In 2023, KDOT hosted the first ever Innovative Technology Summit in August in Salina. The goal of this summit was to promote and share information about KDOT's innovative technology program with transportation industry professionals in the public, private, and academic sectors. The Innovative Tech program provides financial assistance to governmental and non-governmental organizations for innovative transportation-related projects that promote safety, improve access or mobility, and implement new transportation technology. We had over 100 people at our first summit, and as a result, received nearly $4 million in applications to our Innovative Tech program. This next slide, I'm going to skip just for the sake of time. I'm going to talk about fatalities. Obviously, we've been talking about all the things we've been able to do this year as an agency, but even with all that, often the ultimate measure of success for us is a reduction in fatalities. For the second consecutive year, Kansas saw a decrease in the number of fatalities, nearly 9% less in 2023 compared to 2022. That is an amazing drop. It's obviously we are not there, we are not where we want to be, but we are trending in the right direction, and that is important. The reduction in fatalities is due in large part to efforts at KDOT and with our partners. From media campaigns designed to promote good driving behaviors, bringing together partners to establish the Drive to Zero Coalition, KDOT's safety corridor pilot programs, and practical improvements based on data-driven decision-making. But all these efforts fall short if drivers and passengers aren't partnering with us to save lives. So, in a rare moment, under the Kansas State House Dome, I would like to take a moment to thank Missouri. Yep. So the Missouri Department of Transportation and their director, Patrick McKenna, deserve all of the credit for creating this simple but important message that I try to share with nearly everyone I meet. Changing driver and passenger behavior is not something that happens overnight. One component of successful behavior is simple, direct, and easy to remember messaging like this. Buckle up, phones down. Every person, every trip, every time. And just so you guys, if you guys are wanting one, we have these pins made up. We'd love to share these with members of the Transportation Committee and really anybody who wants to wear them and just demonstrate how important it is that we get this message out. So we have these in the back of the room. When the session's over, we'd be happy to share them with you. For some places, we have chosen to be more aggressive in our actions. If you've driven to the different parts of the state, you may have seen these new signs on some of the routes that have higher probabilities of safety incidents. The 4 corridors that we have put into our pilot program for safety corridors are the US 83, US 50 corridor in Finney County, US 69 in Crawford County, US 24 in Pottawatomie County, and I-135 in Sedgwick and Harvey counties. These 4 corridors were selected as part of the pilot program to improve safety outcomes. In this pilot program, a safety corridor is a section of highway selected for increased traffic safety strategies, which include education, law enforcement, engineering, and emergency response improvements. So, as you can tell, we have a lot going on in our agency. Like I said earlier, I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in 2023. Look forward to just as much progress in 2024. What I'd like to do now is pivot and give you an update on the IKE transportation program. So our revenues for fiscal year 25 are shown on the screen. Overall, revenues are projected to remain steady in fiscal year 25 compared to fiscal year 24. For fiscal year 24, we're projecting to receive about $2.2 billion in revenue. Sales tax revenue continues to be a key funding source for the State Highway Fund. It is estimated the State Highway Fund will receive about the same from sales tax revenue in 25 compared to 24. As a reminder, sales tax revenue is the one revenue source that is not constitutionally protected. As the larger tax policy is discussed, I just wanted to take a chance to remind you that any changes in sales tax structure can have an impact on the State Highway Fund revenues and ultimately us being able to invest into our communities. I also want to point out a source of revenue that makes its first appearance since fiscal year 2019. We are projected to issue our first bonds under the IKE program in fiscal year 25, about $200 million worth of bonds. Flipping over to the other side of the ledger, this slide shows a breakdown by program of KDOT expenditures for fiscal year 25. Construction accounts for about 70% of our fiscal year 25 budget. And just for clarification, the number shown on the slide includes the cost to construct a project, as well as the other costs needed to deliver a project, such as design, inspection, and the cost to acquire right-of-way. Several large projects will be let in fiscal year 25, including the Polk Quincy Viaduct here in Topeka, US 54 in Sedgwick County, 18th Street Bridge replacement in Wyandotte County, and the first phase of the South Lawrence Traffic Way project in Douglas County. And just as a reset of the overall makeup of the IKE program, here's a high-level breakdown. This is the original estimate of the program, about $10 billion over 10 years. Nearly half of the original investment in the IKE transportation program was to go towards preservation. We heard very clearly from the legislature that taking care of what we have is our top priority. So half of the overall investment is going to go towards preserving our system. The next biggest investment will be in modernization and expansion of our highway system. So just as a reminder, as a reset, what modernization and expansion mean, modernization projects for KDOT typically mean safety improvements on our highways, which could mean flattening curves, adding shoulders, or improving geometry. Expansion projects are adding capacity to our system. So think about converting a 2-lane facility to a 4-lane facility or adding passing lanes. In the IKE legislation, there were very clear priorities that KDOT was to deliver on, and I want to just give a few minutes to show that we are making progress on those priorities. I'm happy to report that we are on track with all of the promises of the IKE program. Before we let any new modernization expansion projects as part of the IKE program, we first needed to complete at least one phase of the delayed T-Works projects. KDOT was able to deliver on this promise nearly 6 months ahead of schedule. The IKE legislation also requires that KDOT establish a minimum 10-year investment in each of our 6 districts. The IKE legislation requires that KDOT invest at least 40% of that 10-year investment by the midpoint of the program in 2025. Based on what has already been let to construction and what we have committed to be let by the end of 2025, KDOT has already met the mid-program target in 2 of our districts and is estimated to meet the target in the remaining 4 districts. The Ike program legislation does not specify minimum regional investments in highway preservation. However, shortly after the program was passed, KDOT calculated and published anticipated 10-year investments in each of the 6 districts. At 3.5 years into the 10-year program, we are at or above the anticipated investment in all 6 of our districts. And what that looks like as a total is nearly $2 billion let to be constructed or already constructed across the state in preserving our highways and bridges. In addition, we have also already identified at least $1 billion worth of projects to put into our preservation development pipeline to make sure that we are continuing to make good on that investment. In September, we announced $350 million in modernization and expansion projects to be added to our construction pipeline. As a reminder, the construction pipeline are projects that we have committed to construct because plans have been developed to a point that they can be constructed. We've also identified funding and they are still considered local priorities. This brings the amount that we have committed to the construction pipeline to about $2 billion over the course of the program. In addition, we have another $1.2 billion of projects that are currently in the design phase or what we call our development pipeline. And also, don't forget that $8.9 billion of projects that we took to local consult this year. The need is still there. Finally, as we look forward to Ike continuing to work for Kansans, it's critical that we identify and be prepared to respond to challenges and opportunities in a dynamic industry. The job market is competitive due to a variety of factors, like nearing full employment numbers. An overlooked workforce challenge is the decline in certain professions, like surveyors. Professional land surveyors play a critical role in many stages of development of our projects and provide engineers and other decision makers with the data they need to ensure our projects minimize impact on neighboring property owners and the environment. A properly executed survey decreases KDOT's exposure to risk by improving a project's safety, improving its efficiency in design and construction, and ensuring the development complies with state and federal standards. Inflation continues to impact Kansas families and KDOT. What is stunning is that from 2020 to 2023, for all construction materials, inflation has increased by nearly 47%. While we see leveling off across the board in the past year and decreases even in some areas, that increase means that our revenue resources are being stretched even further. And as more alternative fuels and hybrid vehicles enter the Kansas motor fleet and fuel efficiency for gas vehicles continues to improve, we must prepare for reductions in one of our revenue sources, the motor fuels tax. Impacts on other revenue sources must also be anticipated so KDOT continues to meet our mission. The final challenge I want to note is that the needs of our program continue to grow. This is the result of significant economic development, like the Panasonic and Bartlett developments, shifting demographics of our population, and routine maintenance, modernization, and expansion efforts to deliver the highest quality transportation system possible for our citizens. So understanding our challenges enables KDOT to be proactive in response, and that means that we will be better positioned to capitalize on opportunities. KDOT is well positioned to leverage federal funding opportunities. We have a solid history of delivering for our federal partners, which makes us an attractive investment for additional federal allocations. And we are proactively seeking out federal funding opportunities to help our state address transportation projects, test innovations, and partner with locals to meet critical needs through fund swap programs, projects, and programs that have local focus, and more. Transportation is big, and that means prioritizing relationships and partnerships is critical to success. Our track record of service, program, and project delivery has enabled us to build partnerships. The strength of those partnerships will be critical as we address challenges and look to continuously improve our transportation system. Transportation investments have immediate impact, and we're not just planning for 6 months or even 5 years from now. At KDOT, we look 20 years forward to help us plan for the future of the system. That means we are planning for generational investments. Capitalizing on our long-term planning skills will be foundational in helping Kansas make the most of the investments we deliver on today throughout the IKE program and beyond. And Mr. Chairman, appreciate the opportunity to speak today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Committee, questions? Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for being here. And last year when we were here, you were acting or interim or something. So
Yep, that's right.
glad to see a real road man running the road department. I have several questions because I'm extremely stupid, so you can help me. Alternative fuel vehicle EV infrastructure, $39.5 million for corridor investments. Is there more to a corridor investment than just sticking a charging station there? I mean,
Yeah, so I appreciate that question. I know this has been a big topic recently. So essentially, the NEVI program requires us to establish what we call primary corridors to the state. And in those primary corridors, we are supposed to prioritize investments in charging capability along those corridors, with the target of trying to get charging stations at least every 50 miles to help reduce that anxiety as people who drive electric vehicles are driving down our roads. As we finalize those investments in our primary corridors, then we are then allowed to invest in our secondary corridors and really improve the rollout across the entire system.
okay, I saw some numbers somewhere about what it costs to build a charging station. It's extremely expensive. I didn't understand it, but it's neither here nor there. Cost share, second question is cost share. Before I became in the legislature this time, I was the mayor. And one of the problems that we had, Baxter Springs is a small town, 4,000 people, very typical Kansas town. But the cost share you have several cost share plans. I mean, it's one plan, but it works in several ways. But an example would be we could overlay 10 blocks of asphalt for $8,000 a block. But if we took the cost share program, we had to pay for engineering and we had to pay for inspection. And it almost doubled the price. And our street guy just wanted it overlaid. You know, he didn't need it re-engineered and he didn't need it inspected. It was 2 inches of asphalt. But that's not how it works. And so I don't know if there's anything you can do about that. I understand the need for inspection and engineering if it's a complicated deal, but an overlay, you could help small towns, I think it would be helpful. And finally, Mr. Chairman, who decides what the speed limits are on roads? Is that KDOT? Is it Highway Patrol? Is it somebody else?
I would be speaking a little bit out of ignorance here, so I would have to double check on that to verify. We can follow up with that, but I do believe it is in statute. I don't want to go out over my skis here on this one, but I do believe the Secretary of Transportation does have some authority on speed limits.
While you're checking out over your skis, if you could, 69 highway from Pittsburgh to Fort Scott is 65, and everything north of that is 75. And it's just a great trap. I mean, the troopers are there with their lights on, getting everybody they can. And you take 59 highway from Lawrence to Ottawa, same kind of road, same access. It's a higher speed limit. So I'd like to get the speed limit raised if I could. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Senator Warren and Senator Dietrich and Senator Tyson. Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation today. I also have a question about 69 Highway. 69 Highway is partly in my district in Johnson County, and it is the site of an innovative project for Kansas, and it's constructing an express toll lane with flexible tolling on it. And my understanding is it's a 3-year construction project. I'm getting lots of questions from constituents. First of all, how is the construction progressing, and when, most importantly, will it be completed?
Thank you for the question, Senator Warren. As I understand it, and I just took a tour of the site about a month ago, the contractor is on schedule, which means they're right within the window that they thought they would be at this time when they started the project last year. So right now, the project is anticipated to be fully operational in calendar year 26, and right now we don't anticipate it to be any different than that.
Thank you for keeping it on time. And I tell you, every time I drive 69 Highway, which I do to get to the Capitol and around town as well, it seems to be progressing very fast. A new overpass bridge is going up, and lane changes are occurring as you create a path for the construction. So it seems to be, like you have confirmed, on track, and it seems to be progressing pretty rapidly. I see a lot of rapid changes. So thank you for keeping the project on time and hopefully delivering that on time. And my last question, Mr. Chair, is how is that construction project funded? Is it wholly state dollars? Are there some federal funds? Or if you could explain that.
Yeah, that project, like most of our projects, is a combination of state and federal funds.
And do you have a percentage breakdown and the overall cost of the project? What
Not
percentage is
off,
state, what percentage is federal, and what's the entire cost?
yeah, so what I will say is that typically on those projects, 80% federal, 20% state, but it varies a little bit from project to project. That project had about a $520 million cost tag, as I recall. We will get more specific information on that project, though, and share with the committee.
Great, appreciate that. Thank you for the answers, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Dietrich.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here and always being very receptive to phone calls and questions. So Poke Quincy Viaduct, I noticed you had a picture of the before and after here in our presentation, your presentation. So is it progressing? Again, it's a timeline question. And have you been able to acquire all the properties that you need to be able to finish this project?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we're in the process of finalizing the acquisition of all the properties. We were able to acquire about 90% of the properties without going into eminent domain condemnation, but there were a few properties that we did have to go that route. So we are in the process of getting those acquired right now, and we anticipate having those acquired in time for the project to be let next fall. As far as the overall status of the project, it is actually, we are on time, on schedule. One of the biggest hurdles with that project is utility relocations with the city of Topeka. I'm very proud of our staff and working with the city of Topeka to help modify our project to make sure that they were able to get their utilities relocated in a timely manner so that we could build our project next spring.
May I follow up on that just real quick? So, and I do have one question about Lawrence. So when you're talking about moving those utilities and the different stages of this project, what is the next phase that will most impact traffic? Because everybody here uses I-70.
So as far as mainlined I-70, a lot of what you see out there right now is preservation work that we're doing on the bridges and pavements to get ready for the Polk Quincy project. Beyond that, probably the most impactful thing that will be happening this next year are the utility relocations that will be happening underneath the bridge and in the city system. There will necessarily need to be some roads closed down in that part of Topeka, but we will be working with Topeka to make sure that the impacts are as minimal as they can be.
Thank you. And my last question, if I might, Mr. Chair. So when you were talking about the first phase of the Lawrence project, what is that first phase? Can you just briefly tell us?
Yeah. So the South Lawrence Trafficway, or K10, around the southwest side of Lawrence, we broke it into two phases. A phase that connects 6th Street down to Iowa Street, if you can picture it. So that stoplight and the curve at Clinton Parkway is in that section. That is the first phase that we will be constructing. The second phase that we will be constructing is from 6th Street north to the Kansas Turnpike.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. I would reiterate, you've been very responsive, and I'm glad you're full-time in that position now. Congratulations. So I do have several questions. One, may seem minor to some, but KDOT had put some flags up on Highway 59 at Richmond to let people know to slow down. Those flags have been missing for quite some time now. So if we could get those back up, that'd be great.
That's noted. Thank you.
Thank you. And second, the EV, coincidentally, I got a text this morning, a lady that is very upset that we're going to spend $39 million of KDOT money for EV stations. She would like to see that go for the roads and bridges that we need it.
Do you mind if I respond to
I
that?
would love you to respond to that.
Yeah, so that $40 million is federal money, specifically designated for our EV charging infrastructure. We really cannot spend it on roads and bridges.
So is there any state money going for EV infrastructure?
I will have to double check on that for sure.
If you could, that would be great.
Yeah.
And thirdly, then, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Highway 68, 69, 400. Several of those roads still need attention,
Yep.
68 especially. I know that you're creating turn lanes there, but it's still a dangerous area and does need to be addressed. I'm anxious for 69 to be 4-lane into Oklahoma, and I know that's on your radar also.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And then you mentioned a little bit staff. I know you've had some staffing issues. Is that better? We can talk about it offline. I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I'll address that. And you know, a lot of information to share during these presentations. But yeah, I'm glad you asked the question about staff. We've actually seen a slight uptick. We've been able to recruit and retain staff, especially in some key areas. I would say we are still struggling with staffing in our metro areas. Obviously, as you can imagine, the pay in the Kansas City, Wichita, Lawrence, Topeka areas, there are a lot of opportunities that we are competing against for our equipment operators, you know, those folks that are out doing maintenance and plowing roads. So it's really challenging for us to compete. We are working, obviously, with the administration and you guys in any way that we can to help bring make those jobs more competitive so that we can fill those jobs and keep those necessary services up and running.
And I do know that there's other jobs besides the construction itself that we appreciate your efforts on and know that it needs a good look at. So thank you. Then I would ask on I've been traveling the state quite a bit, and Highway 81, and when you go out, that's central Kansas, by the way. I know a lot of people refer to it as western Kansas, and then when you do go out west, those roads, you see higher damage than ever before. If you talk to the locals, they are blaming it, and rightly so, it looks like the wind turbines are having an impact. So it looks like those highways weren't set up for that capacity of those blades. And I know some of the blades are just, they're put on a truck and then they're running up and down the highways so that they don't start their shelf life. So what do you say that we address that? And that is a very difficult question. If you have something that you can get back to us on, that would be great.
Yeah, we can follow up on that question. I'll just say from my own philosophy, obviously preservation of our system is really important to me. It's really important that we use good data and understand the impacts of things like oversized, overweight vehicles on our system, whether it's our pavements or our bridges. And we need to be able to communicate, not just to you, but to our citizens, how those do impact and report back to the committee.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would add to that. I was speaking with Monarch Cement, some of the employees from there, and they made the comment that if we would spend a little bit more upfront on the construction, that we wouldn't have to be redoing these roads as often. So if you could look into that too, that would be great.
Yeah.
And then my final question, you mentioned economic development in your presentation. And I'm curious, it seems like we're overlapping, or we have, I get economic development, but we also need to maintain for our current businesses and infrastructure. So I'm curious as to why KDOT has delved into that lane as economic development.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and it was, you know, obviously established as part of the IKE program, a program to a separate program to help communities in addressing some of these transportation challenges as new businesses want to establish in their communities or existing businesses want to grow in their communities. So, it's not just new businesses. We talked about Panasonic, we talked about Bartlett Grain, but, Schwann's in Salina has had a tremendous growth, and we've been able to partner with the city of Salina and Schwann's to be able to deliver transportation improvements there also. So it is important to support, obviously to support current businesses and industries and communities, but we also want to help grow. So that's, that is part of our mission.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to thank you and all the road crews and everybody. Most of us wouldn't have been able to make it today if it wasn't for you guys. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate that.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary. Just a few questions, and let me start with a comment first. The local consultant was really good. I went to the one in Manhattan, very educational, and so appreciate the hard work in putting those together. Look forward to it. I think that's a real asset to a lot of people. And then just a couple of questions for myself, education. The percentage you talked about of 17% who don't have driver's license between 15 and 64, is that like a trend up or down, or is that what you see in other states? What's that about?
Yeah, so to be honest, that was data I had some of our staff pull out of Department of Revenue. We've never actually, as far as I know, tracked this before. This information came out of a safety conference that I attended in Kansas City, National Safety Conference. Somebody presented about just kind of this fact that we need to continue to make sure we are investing, not just in those that are using our highways, but those that cannot use our highways also. So to be fair, that's one data point in time. I can't tell you what the trend is right now. I do think just based on stories and conversation I've heard, knowing that I have teenagers also, I do know that there is a bit of a reluctance or maybe just on wanting to be able to get teenagers and younger people driving sooner. They're just not as willing to do that, not as interested in doing that. I think that is a trend that we are seeing not just in Kansas and across the country. I don't have data to support that trend though.
And then when it comes to the airports, you said you had a joint task force study on monies that's allocated. Do these airports, do they have to apply for those funds, or do you, just through your study, decide you're going to give it somewhere? Or?
Yeah, so through our Kansas Airport Improvement Program, that is a competitive grant program, so airports do apply for those funds. The main point was that our funding, the statutory funding of $5 million annually into the KAIP is really not even scratching the surface of the needs right now. And so there is going to be a push this legislative session to increase that by a certain amount.
Just a couple real quick. I know we're short on time here. And then, is that all right?
Yeah, proceed. Senator Warren has another question also.
Oh, okay. As far as contracting, like for the asphalt, and excuse my ignorance on this, but is, so does the state have like their own crews, or is everything contracted out, and how's that decision made?
Yeah. That's a good question. For the most part, most of the preservation work and modernization expansion projects that you see on our highways are contracted out to contractors. We do some what I would call minor maintenance, so filling potholes, cracks in highways, and then minor maintenance on our bridges and mowing and things like that. Those are things that we tend to do more in-house. The decision is really made just based off of staffing and economics.
You can go ahead. That's good. Thank you.
Senator Warren, final quick question. We have about a minute left.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the department for you've had specific consults with neighbors and neighborhoods around the 69 highway expansion project, putting in that express toll lane. to address their concerns. And I believe the noise of the construction has been reduced per those requests at those consults at night for those neighbors who are along the construction site. So thank you for that, and thank you for your efforts to, at least at nighttime, to keep those construction noises down so that KDOT can continue to be a good partner with our Kansas residents. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Appreciate the great presentation today. That is a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm sure if people have questions, we have the contact information for Catherine and Joel, and committee members. They're a great resource. Don't hesitate to use them. Committee, we have Kansas Turnpike Authority presenting tomorrow, and we're going to finish the whole week with presentations. We'll start hearing bills next week on Tuesday. With that, we are adjourned.